Hello everyone. Today I have another book review for you, and in it we're going to review Control by Lydia Kang. I read this book as part of this sort of ongoing booktube read-along thing that a bunch of different booktubers are doing, so I'll link to the Goodreads group down below if you're interested in kind of finding out more about it and participating. Probably the most important key date of the whole thing is that the booktubers that are moderating the event are doing a live show on February 22nd, so if you want to participate, you have like a week left to read the book, which I definitely think you can do. It's definitely readable in a week. But yeah, so let's just jump right into the review. This book is set in 2150 and tells the story of Zelia and Delia. I guess that's how you say their names. I probably said them wrong the entire time I was reading the book. And their sisters, and through a tragic course of events, they get separated. And now, in this particular world, dystopian-ish with the United States, all the states have kind of broken up and they're sort of doing their own things now, and genetic modification is a thing that exists. It's not allowed, and the people who do have genetic modifications are sort of ostracized in the society and typically fall into one of like two types of houses. And so Zelia gets put in one of the houses, and she basically spends the whole book trying to save her sister, while also kind of finding out things about her past as well as herself and the people around her. And I'm trying hard to not give you spoilers with the book, so I'm sorry if that description isn't super exciting. It makes the book sound super interesting. It is a very interesting book, and I would recommend reading it for sure. So kind of just one of the really great things about this book is that it's super fast-paced. One of the things I struggle with in young adult is sometimes the books are kind of slow, and by slow I mean the plot doesn't necessarily advance super quickly because they're spending a lot of time focusing on romance. And so while this book does have some romance, which is kind of just kind of a positive and a negative, like the romance is fun, but it still has parts that are kind of vaguely unbelievable, to me at least. This one did spend a lot of time on the plot and progressing that and telling you about the world, which I really liked. It also is like a dystopian feature, but it's not super depressing, which I feel like is rare in dystopian books just generally, and then in YA dystopia, they're always somehow really depressing. And so it was nice that this one was just sort of like, this is the world. The world is just kind of different than, you know, your world is today, but it wasn't horrifically, distressingly depressing, which was really nice, because again, you kind of see that a lot. It's a really overused thing. And also, this book is basically just like X-Men in a book form. So if you really like comic book kind of things, and you really enjoy even X-Men, the movies, if you've read some of the comics or seen the animated series from the 90s, which is not as good as you remember it being, let me tell you. I definitely would recommend checking it out for that reason. It has a lot of fun, kind of that sort of stuff. The people that Zelia and Delia meet all have different sort of genetic mutations, and they're very interesting to kind of see how they work out, and some of the characters, they reminded me a little bit of like some X-Men characters, which was cool. Some of the other kinds of things that was difficult is that because the book is so fast-paced, she's throwing a lot of names at you and a lot of different types of traits and abilities at you, and it's kind of difficult to keep track of them all at first. I definitely was confusing some people, and I kind of have to go back to the beginning where she sort of just like gave you the roster of the people, you know, like here's this guy, he looks like this, his trait is this, and you're like, oh, okay. But then when you kind of get more midway through the book and kind of towards the end, you start picking it up and remembering who people are, which is kind of becomes important later in the end of the story. And something else that was difficult was that this book is like really dark, surprisingly dark, and it was kind of, which is a positive because it's interesting, you know, to have sort of the dark elements, but I don't really like the dark elements as much in stories. I like them to be happy and go lucky and that sort of thing. But so it's a positive and a negative. Like, it was done and I understand why it was there, but it also sort of was just like kind of distressing and a little sad when you got to some of those darker parts, and so I guess that's something to be aware of. So I ended up giving Control a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, which I would say is actually more of a 3.5 out of 5, but I definitely liked the book. I definitely want to read the sequel that's coming out in someday, I think like 2015. So it definitely was interesting, and it was definitely fun. And so because of that, I gave it the 4. And so if you're looking for a book that's set kind of in a different sort of time period and that's sort of like a superpower-y thing going on, would definitely recommend checking this one out. It was a good little read. So yeah, so if you've read this book or you pick it up after reading the review, definitely tell me what you thought about the book in the thing below. I'm definitely interested in hearing about it. If you know of any other books that sort of have this like superpower genetically thing going on, I'd like to hear about them. I'd love to hear about that too. And yeah, so until next time, I hope you're having a great day, evening, night, you know, whatever. Bye.